The unexpected encounter. Isla. Morgan smoothed down her one professional blazer for the third time, tucking a strand of chestnut hair behind her ear as she glanced anxiously at the restaurant entrance. The Waverly was far beyond her usual budget, all gleaming brass fixtures and crisp white tablecloths that practically screamed expense account. But this lunch wasn't about comfort, it was about opportunity. The Oceanic Research Grant Committee had finally agreed to meet with her after months of applications and follow-up emails. If she could convince them that her work on deep-sea bioluminescence had practical applications, it might mean funding for her dying project and access to the mysterious Starfall facility, the most advanced marine research center in the world, though so secretive that most scientists doubted its existence. Dr. Morgan, the hostess approached with a sympathetic smile. Your party called. They're running 20 minutes late. Isla nodded, grateful for the extra time to collect her thoughts. I'll wait at the table if that's all right. As she was led through the dining room, Isla felt painfully aware of her second-hand blazer and practical shoes among the power lunches and designer suits. The marine biology department at Pacific Coast University wasn't known for its generous salaries, and at 32, she still shared an apartment with two other researchers to afford rent in the coastal city. Water while you wait? A server appeared with practiced smoothness. Yes, please, Isla replied, arranging her presentation materials on the table. Photographs of bioluminescent organisms she'd documented at previously unrecorded ocean depths, samples of potential applications for sustainable lighting technology. 20 minutes stretched to 45. Isla checked her phone repeatedly, finally receiving a terse message. Meeting running long. Order without us, we'll join when possible. With a sigh, she ordered the least expensive item on the menu, a salad that still cost more than she would typically spend on 3 meals. As she waited, she observed the other diners, particularly a man sitting alone at a corner table. Something about him commanded attention despite his obvious desire for privacy. Tall with broad shoulders and unusual gray eyes, he wore his expensive suit with the ease of someone accustomed to luxury, yet seemed detached from the corporate theater around him. Their eyes met briefly, and Isla quickly looked away, embarrassed to be caught staring. When she dared another glance, his table was empty. An hour into her wait, Isla's phone chimed again. Can't make it. Send materials by email. Sorry for inconvenience, the disappointment was crushing. Another opportunity lost, another dead end. She had spent rent money on this blazer, prepared for weeks, and now faced an overpriced lunch alone in a restaurant where she clearly didn't belong. As Isla signaled for the check, planning to leave immediately, she reached for her wallet only to find her bag open and her wallet missing. No, she whispered, searching frantically. This can't be happening. Reality crashed down with sickening clarity. Someone had taken her wallet, probably when she'd been distracted arranging her materials. Her credit card, driver's license, the emergency cash she couldn't afford to lose, all gone. Is everything all right, miss? The server appeared, check in hand. My wallet. Isla stammered, heat rising to her face. I think it was stolen. I had it when I arrived, but now... The server's friendly expression cooled. I'll need to get the manager. Isla felt the curious stares of nearby diners, heard the whispered judgments. This was worse than professional disappointment. It was public humiliation. Tears threatened as a suited manager approached, his expression a practiced mask of skepticism. Perhaps you'd like to check your bag again, he suggested, his tone making it clear what he really thought, that she was trying to avoid paying. I've checked, Isla said quietly. I can call campus security to verify my identity. I can bring payment back. That won't be necessary. The deep voice came from behind her. Isla turned to find the gray-eyed man from the corner table standing there, his expression unreadable. Add her check to my bill, he continued, addressing the manager. And I believe your security cameras might help identify who took her wallet, particularly the individual who brushed past this table 30 minutes ago. The manager's demeanor transformed instantly. Of course, Mr. Everhart. I'll review the footage immediately. Isla stared at her unexpected rescuer, recognition finally clicking. Zane Everhart, the reclusive tech entrepreneur whose company pioneered underwater drones and mapping technology. His face rarely appeared in media, but the scientific community knew his reputation for brilliant innovation and fierce privacy. Thank you, she managed. But you don't need to. I know I don't need to, Zane interrupted, his voice matter-of-fact rather than unkind. May I? He gestured to the empty chair across from her. Still stunned, Isla nodded. Zane sat with the fluid grace of an athlete despite his imposing height. "Those are Pelagothrix illuminata," he observed, glancing at her photographs. "Extremely rare." "Documented at what depth?" Isla blinked in surprise. 4,300 meters. "You know marine biology?" "I know many things, Dr. Morgan," he replied, the hint of a smile softening his serious features. "Including that the Oceanic Research Committee is notorious for canceling meetings and that your work on bioluminescent organisms deserves more attention than they're likely to give it." "How do you know my name?" Isla asked, confusion overtaking embarrassment. Zane's expression shifted, becoming more measured. "Because I've read your research papers. Your application crossed my desk 3 weeks ago." "My application?" Isla's mind raced to connect the dots. "You're affiliated with the Starfall facility?" "You could say that." Zane's gray eyes held hers steadily. "I founded it." The revelation left Isla momentarily speechless. Starfall was notoriously secretive, funded through layers of corporations and trusts, its exact location unknown to all but those who worked there. Scientists spoke of it in whispers like a marine research Shangri-La. "I don't understand," Isla finally said. "Why would you be reviewing applications personally? And why intervene today?" Zane considered her question, seeming to weigh his response carefully. "I prefer to know who might be joining my research team. As for today," he glanced around the restaurant, "let's just say I recognize what it's like to be judged based on appearances rather than substance." The manager returned, apologetically confirming that security footage showed a professional pickpocket targeting several diners. He offered to contact police and comp Isla's meal, clearly eager to please Zane. After the manager left, an awkward silence settled between them. Isla's professional instincts battled with her embarrassment and confusion. This man held the key to her research dreams, yet had just witnessed her at her most vulnerable. "Thank you," she said finally, "for your help and for not assuming the worst about me." "Assumptions are dangerous things, Dr. Morgan," Zane replied, studying her with unexpected intensity. "People look at me and see a successful businessman. They look at you and see an awkward scientist out of her depth," Isla suggested with a self-deprecating smile. "Was going to say a passionate researcher whose dedication to understanding the ocean's mysteries exceeds her concern for social hierarchies." Zane leaned forward slightly. "Tell me, if you had access to Starfall's resources, what would be your first priority?" The question felt like a test, but Isla answered honestly. "There's a bioluminescent signaling pattern I've documented in deep-sea organisms that suggests a form of communication we don't understand. With the right equipment, we could potentially decode it, learn how different species coordinate in an environment where light is precious and rare." Something in Zane's expression changed, a spark of genuine interest breaking through his reserved exterior. "Light and darkness," he said softly, almost to himself. "Signals that most miss because they're not looking properly." "Exactly," Isla replied. Surprised by his poetic interpretation, Zane checked his watch, a simple, elegant timepiece rather than the ostentatious status symbol she might have expected. "My car is outside. I have a meeting at 2. But if you'd like to continue this conversation, I can drive you back to campus afterward." Isla hesitated only briefly. This was either the most fortunate professional opportunity of her career or extremely poor judgment on her part. But something in Zane Everhart's direct gaze suggested honesty despite his guarded demeanor. "I'd like that," she decided. "I have questions about Starfall that aren't answered in the limited public materials." As they left the restaurant, together, the awkward marine biologist and the billionaire tech founder, Isla couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted in her universe, like tides responding to an unseen astronomical event. What she couldn't possibly know was that Zane Everhart, who had attended the lunch specifically to observe her from a distance before making a final decision about her application, was experiencing the exact same sensation, the unmistakable pull of something rare and unexpected, a discovery as profound as any hidden in the ocean depths they both sought to understand. Hidden depths, the helicopter descended through wispy clouds, revealing a private island that seemed to emerge from the Pacific Ocean like a secret. Isla pressed her face to the window, taking in the dramatic cliffs on one side and the gentle curve of protected cove on the other. At the island's highest point stood what appeared to be a modern glass and steel structure, partially embedded into the rock. Starfall Sanctuary. It's beautiful, Isla breathed, still processing the whirlwind events of the past 2 weeks. After their unexpected lunch, Zane had fast-tracked her application. Now she was arriving for a 3-month research fellowship that most marine biologists only dreamed about. Zane, seated across from her in the helicopter's cabin, observed her reaction with quiet satisfaction. The facility is primarily underwater. What you see is just the entrance and administrative section. As they landed on a helipad nestled among native coastal plants, Isla noticed the subtle security measures. Cameras disguised as lighting fixtures, what appeared to be motion sensors integrated into the landscaping. For a research facility, Starfall seemed remarkably well protected. "Welcome to Starfall," Zane said as they disembarked, the ocean breeze ruffling his dark hair. "You're home for the next 3 months. A staff member appeared to collect Isla's luggage, but Zane waved them away. "I'll handle the orientation." Personally, Isla followed him along a path that wound through carefully maintained coastal vegetation to the main entrance, a massive glass doorway that slid open silently at their approach. Inside, the reception area featured a ceiling-to-floor aquarium filled with delicate coral and colorful reef fish. "This is just for show," Zane explained, noticing her admiration. "Our real work happens below." They stepped into an elevator with walls of clear glass. As it descended, Isla gasped. The shaft was surrounded by ocean water, creating the sensation of sinking directly into the sea. Fish darted past and light filtered through the water in ethereal patterns. "The main facility is 80 feet below the surface," Zane explained as various levels passed by. "We have research pods extending to 300 feet, and remote stations that go much deeper." When the elevator doors opened, Isla stepped into what could only be described as an underwater scientific paradise. Curved corridors with transparent ceilings revealed the ocean above, while state-of-the-art laboratories branched off in various directions. Researchers in navy blue uniforms moved purposefully between stations. "This is incredible," Isla murmured, trying to take everything in at once. "I've never seen facilities like this." "That's because they don't exist anywhere else," Zane replied, leading her through the main hub. "Starfall represents my vision of what marine research could be without limitations." As they walked, Isla noticed certain areas required additional security clearance, sections with frosted glass walls and keypad entries. Despite the facility's open design, there was clearly information being protected. "Your quarters," Zane announced, stopping at a door that opened to reveal a comfortable suite, with its own small viewing window into the surrounding waters. "Take an hour to settle in, then meet me in Lab 7 for your project briefing." Alone in her quarters, Isla unpacked quickly, too excited to rest. Her fingers traced the edge of the viewing window where small fish occasionally darted past. How had her life changed so dramatically in 2 weeks? From struggling researcher to fellow at the world's most advanced marine facility, all because of a stolen wallet and Zane Everhart's unexpected intervention. Lab 7 was smaller than the main research areas, clearly designed for specialized work. When Isla arrived, she found Zane already there, studying holographic projections of ocean current patterns. "Your timing is perfect," he said without looking up. "I was just reviewing the locations where your bioluminescent specimens were collected." The holographic display shifted to show a deep ocean trench, marked with collection points from Isla's previous research. Zane manipulated the image with practiced gestures, zooming into specific coordinates. "This area particularly interests me," he said, highlighting a section of the trench. "The specimens you documented here exhibit communication patterns unlike anything else we've recorded." Isla moved closer to the display, momentarily forgetting her nervousness around Zane. "Yes, that's where I documented the synchronized bioluminescent signaling. It was unlike anything in the scientific literature. Because no one else has been looking properly," Zane murmured, echoing his words from their first meeting. For the next hour, they discussed her research in detail. Isla was impressed by Zane's knowledge. He wasn't just a wealthy sponsor, but a genuine scientist with insights that occasionally surprised her. As their conversation flowed, the initial awkwardness faded, replaced by the natural rhythm of two minds exploring ideas together. "I'd like you to lead a specialized research team," Zane concluded, focusing specifically on these communication patterns. "You'll have access to our advanced submersibles and remote collection equipment." That's more responsibility than I expected, Isla admitted. I don't believe in wasting talent, Zane replied simply. You'll meet your team tomorrow. For now, I'll show you the rest of the facility. As they continued the tour, Isla noticed how other researchers reacted to Zane, with respect tinged with something like caution. He was clearly not just the facility's founder, but its driving force, intimately familiar with every project underway. They passed a secured doorway where two researchers in specialized containment suits were exiting, carefully sealing the entrance behind them. What's that section? Isla asked. Specialized containment, Zane answered smoothly, for potentially sensitive specimens. Before she could ask further questions, an alert sounded on Zane's watch. He checked it with a slight frown. I need to handle something. Feel free to explore the main research areas. Your security clearance is active. After he left, Isla wandered through the facility, introducing herself to fellow researchers who welcomed her with varying degrees of warmth. Most seemed surprised that Zane had personally recruited her. He never brings in new researchers himself, a biologist named Marcus told her. Usually leaves that to the department heads. You must have really impressed him. As Isla made her way back toward her quarters, she took a wrong turn and found herself in a corridor she hadn't seen during the tour. At its end stood one of the secured doors, slightly ajar. Unusual given the strict protocols she'd observed elsewhere. Hesitating only briefly, Isla approached. Curiosity was a scientist's natural state after all. Through the narrow opening, she could see a large specialized tank bathed in subtle blue lighting. Something moved within it. Something that pulsed with bioluminescence in patterns unlike any marine organism she'd ever encountered. The colors shifted from deep blue to a vibrant violet, creating complex formations that seemed almost mathematical in their precision. Whatever creature produced such lights, it wasn't documented in any scientific literature Isla had ever studied. Finding your way around, Isla started at Zane's voice behind her. She hadn't heard him approach, but he stood there watching her with an unreadable expression. I got lost, she explained honestly. What is that specimen? I've never seen bioluminescence patterns like that. Something shifted in Zane's expression. Caution, perhaps, or calculation. It's a recent discovery. Still being classified. From what depth? Isla asked, professional interest overriding her awareness that she might be overstepping. Deep, Zane replied enigmatically. Much deeper than conventional research reaches. He gently closed the door, securing it properly. Some discoveries require careful handling. Dr. Morgan, context before exposure to the wider scientific community. As he guided her back toward familiar corridors, Isla sensed there was much more to Starfall Sanctuary than a typical research facility, and perhaps more to Zane Everhart than the brilliant, reclusive founder he appeared to be that night. Looking out her viewing window into the dark ocean, Isla watched the natural bioluminescence of passing marine life, familiar patterns that had fascinated her throughout her career. But her mind kept returning to those strange violet pulses, to Zane's careful non-answer, and to the growing sense that she had stepped into something far more complex than a prestigious research position. Revelations beneath the surface. 3 weeks into her fellowship, Isla had fallen into a rhythm at Starfall. Her research team, 4 brilliant scientists with complementary specialties, had made significant progress documenting the communication patterns of deep-sea organisms. Her days were filled with fascinating work. Her evenings often spent analyzing data or preparing for the next day's expeditions. What remained unpredictable was Zane. Some days he would work alongside her team for hours, offering insights and adjusting equipment with the skill of a seasoned researcher. Other days he would disappear into the restricted sections of the facility, emerging with shadows under his eyes and an intensity that kept others at a distance. Pressure differential dropping in Pod 5. A voice called over the facility's communication system. Emergency protocols activated. Isla was in the main lab when the alarm sounded. The specialized research pod where her team had been cultivating bioluminescent organisms was experiencing a critical system failure. Without the precise pressure maintenance, months of work could be lost in minutes. The external regulator is failing, one explained tensely. We need to manually recalibrate while maintaining the internal environment. But the programming sequence... Let me, Isla interrupted, stepping forward. Her doctoral work had focused on creating specialized environments for deep-sea organisms. I can modify the secondary system to compensate while you repair the primary. The technicians exchanged doubtful glances but moved aside. Isla's fingers flew across the control panel, implementing a complex workaround that would maintain the delicate balance the specimens required. For 15 tense minutes, she made continuous microadjustments, responding to each fluctuation with precise counters. When the primary system finally came back online, a collective breath of relief filled the room. Isla stepped back, suddenly aware that Zane had been watching from the doorway, his expression thoughtful. "Quick thinking," he said as the technicians dispersed to complete the repairs. Most researchers would have focused on evacuation protocols for the specimens, not environmental stabilization. Evacuation would have compromised the communication patterns we've been documenting, Isla explained. They're sensitive to environmental disruption. Zane studied her with new appreciation. You prioritize the research over the easier solution. Not everyone would make that choice. Later that evening, Isla was surprised to receive a message asking her to meet Zane in the specialized observation dome, a transparent bubble extending into the ocean that was typically reserved for visiting dignitaries or significant discoveries. When she arrived, she found the dome illuminated only by the bioluminescence of the surrounding ocean and a single small light over a research table where Zane was reviewing data. "You've earned greater access," he said without preamble, activating a holographic display. "Your handling of today's crisis demonstrated both your technical skill and commitment to the research." The holographic image showed a three-dimensional map of the ocean trench where Isla had done her original research, but with detail far beyond anything publicly available. 3 years ago, our advanced mapping submersible detected an anomaly in this section, Zane explained, zooming into a previously uncharted area of the trench, something with a composition unlike the surrounding geological formations. The image shifted to show a streamlined object partially embedded in the ocean floor. Despite obvious damage, its constructed nature was unmistakable. A shipwreck? Isla guessed, though something about the design seemed off. Too smooth, too intentionally shaped. "Not of human origin," Zane replied quietly, watching her reaction closely. Isla looked from the image to Zane's face, searching for signs this was some kind of test or joke. His expression remained serious, his gray eyes intent. "You're saying it's—" She couldn't quite bring herself to complete the sentence. "Extraterrestrial." Zane finished for her. "Yes. A vessel of non-human design containing technology and biological samples unlike anything in our scientific record." Isla sank into a chair, mind racing to process this revelation. "The violet bioluminescence I saw in the restricted area?" Zane nodded. "One of the preserved specimens recovered from the craft. Its cellular structure and bioluminescent properties are unlike anything on Earth." "Why tell me this now?" Isla asked, trying to maintain scientific objectivity despite the enormity of what she was hearing. Zane's expression shifted subtly. "Because your research on bioluminescent communication might help us understand the patterns we've documented from the specimens. And because—" he hesitated, uncharacteristically uncertain. "Because I've learned to trust my instincts about people, and my instincts say you can handle the truth without allowing fear to override scientific curiosity." That night began a new phase of their professional relationship. Zane gradually introduced Isla to the classified research underway in Starfall's restricted sections. Analysis of materials with molecular structures unknown to Earth science. Studies of biological samples preserved in the vessel's specialized containment units. Attempts to decode the mathematical patterns in the craft's design and the bioluminescent signals of its preserved specimens. Their late nights working together fostered a growing personal connection. Isla learned that Zane had founded Starfall after his oceanographic exploration company discovered the submerged craft, a discovery he had kept secret from government agencies and corporate interests who might exploit it. Most people would have reported it, Isla observed. One night as they analyzed communication, patterns in the specimen's bioluminescence, most people didn't have a childhood. "Experience no one believed," Zane replied, his voice carrying an old pain. "When I was 11, I saw lights in the ocean unlike anything known to science. My father was a marine biologist. I told him about the patterns, drew what I'd seen. He dismissed it as imagination, and I learned that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence. When we found the craft, I finally had that evidence." His personal revelation touched Isla deeply. She recognized the shadow of someone who had been dismissed, whose truth had been denied. something she had experienced in her own career when her theories about bioluminescent communication had been rejected by mainstream academia. As weeks passed, the boundaries between professional collaboration and personal connection blurred. Isla found herself watching Zane when he was absorbed in research. The intensity in his expression, the precise movements of his hands, the rare moments when discovery brought a genuine smile to his usually serious features. One night, analyzing particularly complex signal patterns, they made a breakthrough in decoding what appeared to be mathematical sequences within the bioluminescent communications. It's not just light, Isla realized, excitement making her voice breathless. It's language, complex, structured, intentional. Zane looked up from the data, their eyes meeting across the lab table. The shared moment of discovery created an electric connection between them, the unique intimacy of minds aligned in understanding. Without conscious thought, Isla moved toward him. Zane met her halfway, their lips meeting in a kiss that held the intensity of their shared discovery and weeks of growing attraction. His arms encircled her with careful strength, her hands moving to the nape of his neck, fingers threading through his dark hair. When they finally separated, slightly breathless, Zane looked at her with an expression of wonder rarely seen on his typically guarded features. "I didn't plan for this," he admitted quietly. "For you. Scientists should always allow for unexpected variables," Isla replied with a small smile. Later, in Zane's private quarters with its expansive viewing window into the midnight ocean, their professional partnership transformed into physical exploration. Tender at first, then increasingly passionate as initial hesitation gave way to mutual desire. Zane's usual controlled demeanor yielded to something more primal, while Isla's natural reserve dissolved in the freedom of shared vulnerability. Afterward, lying in the subtle glow of bioluminescent organisms that occasionally drifted past the viewing window, Zane traced patterns on her bare shoulder, his touch gentle but thoughtful. "There's something I haven't shown you," he said quietly. "Something only 3 other people at this facility know." Isla propped herself up on one elbow, studying his serious expression. "What is it?" "Not all the specimens are dormant or preserved," Zane revealed. "One shows signs of being in stasis rather than deceased. We believe there's a possibility of reviving it under the right conditions."